Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Chicago Fire Season 13 is really failing its Casey and Brett replacement. Slow burn romances surely aren't new to Chicago Fire, but its best was undoubtedly Matt Casey and Sylvie Brett, and one Season 13 couple is seemingly their replacement, despite the show misusing them. As its name suggests, the NBC procedural drama TV series chronicles the lives of a group of firefighters and paramedics in Chicago, Illinois. The cast of Chicago Fire has changed greatly over the years, but with every character that leaves, the writers tried to replace them, which has been the case for Casey and Brett. Jesse Spencer's Casey had been a part of the Chicago Fire cast since the beginning. Meanwhile, Kara Kilmer's Brett joined Firehouse 51 in Season 3. Since Casey was married to Brett's paramedic partner, sparks didn't fly between the two until Gabby Dawson was out of the picture. Still, it took time for them to get together, and Casey and Brett's wedding didn't come until Chicago Fire Season 12. The couple moved to Oregon afterward, meaning the spot for the show's token slow-burn romance opened up, and Violet McCamey and Sam Carver swiftly stepped into Casey and Brett's shoes. The Chicago Fire Season 13 premiere made its Brett and Casey replacement clear. Violet and Carver's love story is now the one to root for. Unfortunately, like Brett and Casey, it's taking a long time for them to get together. As some may recall, Violet and Carver began a casual relationship in Season 12, but Carver, unsurprisingly, developed feelings for Violet. She did too, but Violet didn't realize it until it was too late. Carver professed his love for Violet during the Chicago Fire Season 12 finale and then took a furlough to visit his family in Texas. In the 6 weeks they were apart, Violet gave Carver space but knew she wanted to be with him. Violet was going to tell him about her feelings until she saw Carver kissing Tori, his high school girlfriend, in Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 1. Carver and Tori had gotten back together while he was in Texas, and Violet was resigned to watching from a distance. A few episodes later, Violet also started dating someone, Flynn, prolonging the slow burn between her and Carver. Afterward, though, Chicago Fire Season 13 has seemingly forgotten about Carver and Violet's story in the last episodes of 2024. During the first handful of Chicago Fire Season 13 episodes, the One Chicago TV show did a good job of adding tension and angst to Violet and Carver's slow burn romance. But the episodes leading up to the fall finale barely showed them interacting. They also didn't contain signs of Violet and Carver still having feelings for one another despite their storyline not being resolved. Instead, Carver was focused on his toxic relationship with Tori, which ended with her leaving him, and Violet was cozying up to Flynn. Yes, Violet and Carver getting new love interests is a good way to prolong their slow burn love story, making the moment they finally get together even sweeter. However, it's also important to show Violet and Carver being jealous of each other's relationship. Violet was outwardly jealous at the beginning of Season 13, but once she met Flynn, she seemingly forgot all about Carver. There was a moment when Violet watched as Carver stormed out of the firehouse in Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 6, but it wasn't effective enough to be memorable. Meanwhile, Carver doesn't seem to know or care about Violet's relationship status. Even after Tori left, Carver was more focused on getting a dog in the fall finale than checking in on the woman he's supposed to love. If the audience is meant to care and root for Violet and Carver, then they need to see development in their relationship, no matter how little it is. But the past few episodes have failed to even remind fans that Violet and Carver are supposed to be Casey and Brett's replacements. The bad news is that Chicago Fire Season 13 won't return until 2025. Giving viewers more time to forget about Violet and Carver. However, the show can redeem itself if Episode 9 focuses on Violet and Carver's story. Carver has to acknowledge Violet's new relationship and show signs of jealousy. On Violet's end, the audience needs to be reminded of her feelings for Carver. This shouldn't be too hard to accomplish since Violet has a lot more chemistry with Carver than she does with Flynn. Whatever the case, Chicago Fire Season 13, Episode 9 must get Violet and Carver's arc back on track. When Chicago Fire said goodbye to Captain Matthew Casey, Jesse Spencer, and later Sylvie Brett, Kara Kilmer, fans knew the show was in for a major shakeup. The couple, often referred to as Brettsey, carried significant emotional weight in the series, with their relationship serving as one of the most heartfelt and grounded storylines in recent years. However, as season 13 unfolds, it has become increasingly clear that the series is struggling to fill the void left by their departures. The replacements and shifting dynamics just aren't clicking in the same way, and the show's attempt to recapture that magic feels forced. The lack of a compelling romantic anchor. One of the major appeals of Chicago Fire has always been its ability to balance action-packed rescues with deeply personal relationships among its characters. Brettsey's slow-burn romance provided an emotional throughline for seasons, giving fans something to root for beyond the emergency calls and firehouse drama. Their exit left a gaping hole in that department, and the show has yet to find a new couple that can match their chemistry. Though the series has attempted to position Sam Carver, Jake Lockett, and Violet McCamey, Hanako Greensmith, as potential leads in the romance department, their dynamic doesn't carry the same weight. Violet's previous romantic entanglements, particularly with Evan Hawkins, were far more compelling, and her new interactions with Carver feel rushed and inorganic. Meanwhile, Carver has struggled to fully integrate into Firehouse 51's core group, making it difficult for fans to invest in his story. The leadership void. Another glaring issue is Casey's absence as a strong and respected leader. While the show has placed Lieutenant Stella Kidd, Miranda Ray Mayo, in a more prominent leadership role, it hasn't quite captured the same balance of authority and warmth that Casey provided. Kidd is a fantastic character in her own right, but her leadership style is different. She's more fiery and outspoken, whereas Casey had a calming, reassuring presence. Adding to the problem, the show's newer characters lack the same commanding presence that Casey had. The introduction of new firefighters and paramedics has felt like an assembly line, with characters coming and going without making a lasting impact. While newcomers like Jared Lennox, played by Rome Flynn, show promise, the writing hasn't given him the depth or consistency needed to truly step into Casey's shoes. The struggles with Brett's replacement. When Brett left, Chicago Fire attempted to inject fresh energy into the paramedic team with new additions, but none have made the same impact. Brett was more than just a paramedic. She was the heart of Firehouse 51's EMS team, providing emotional support and a strong moral compass for her colleagues. Her replacement, Lila Novak, has been given little development so far, making it difficult for fans to connect with her. Unlike Brett, who built relationships naturally over multiple seasons, Lila has been thrown into the mix with minimal backstory or build-up. She lacks the on-screen charisma that made Brett such a beloved character, and her interactions with Violet and the rest of the team feel surface-level, rather than deeply connected. This issue has only been made worse by the show's reluctance to truly focus on her character development. A lack of emotional payoff. One of the biggest failures in Chicago Fire Season 13 is its struggle to create the same emotional payoffs that Brettsey and Casey once provided. Casey's departure was a major moment in the series, and when he returned briefly for Brett's exit and their wedding, it was a touching send-off. But since then, the show has struggled to deliver equally powerful moments for its remaining and new characters. Instead of focusing on building deep emotional arcs, Chicago Fire has leaned too heavily on episodic emergencies and action sequences. While high-stakes rescues have always been a core element of the series, they only work when balanced with strong character-driven storytelling. Unfortunately, the lack of compelling personal drama has made Season 13 feel more like a series of disconnected events, rather than a cohesive, emotionally resonant narrative. The fans' frustration. It's no secret that longtime fans of the show are struggling with the direction Chicago Fire is taking. Brett and Casey's departures were always going to be tough to handle, but the show's inability to introduce meaningful replacements has only made matters worse. Many viewers have expressed frustration over the lack of compelling new storylines, feeling as though the series is merely treading water instead of evolving.